Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well today. I have just got some new rings, which is very exciting, but I feel very clangy. Like I've tried starting to record this video a few times now, and every time I do, I'm like, oh. So I'm gonna try and not move my hands, and if I'm moving my hands a lot, I will take the rings off. But hello, how are things? Are you good? Good. Today, I thought I could take you through some things in my plant collection that are really exciting me at the moment. I couldn't think of a better way to describe this video. I've just got various things. I guess it's kind of like an updates video, although I have got a full updates video coming in a couple of days. Just some things that have been going on, some things that are really exciting me, some things that are really surprising me, some things that I'm just really excited to share. So yeah, that is the plan for today. But first, oh my God, stop clapping your hands, Claire. But first, if you are new here, hi, my name's Claire and this is Yoli. I make videos all about houseplant care, sharing tips and tricks I've learned over the years to help keep your plants happy and healthy. And yes, so today is just going to be a very chilled kind of show and tell video. And if you've got interesting, fun things going on with your plants at the moment as well, please do comment it down below. Let me know. I love knowing what's going on with your plants. But yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. So one of the most exciting things that is happening with my plants at the moment, it might not look like much, but it is my Alicasia Portadora, which if you've been on my channel for a while, you will remember at one point was like the biggest plant in my collection. It had leaves that were almost like half the size of me. It was insane. However, it was a plant that is so susceptible to pests. It had thrips, it had spider mites, it had mealybugs, and I ended up putting it out on the balcony at my old flat, and I kind of forgot about it. And in fact, it spent all winter out on the balcony at my old flat, and looked just kind of like this for a really long time. It looked like, actually no, that's a lie. It had more of a stump, and then I chopped the rhizome in half because it had frozen solid, and I was like, is there any saving this plant? I kind of feel like it might be doomed. And for the last few months, that's all that's happened. I've seen so many springtails on this plant. I've seen lots of things to suggest that perhaps there might be rotting going on, and I've looked at the roots, and the roots have been okay. But literally in the last few days, I've just had a poke around in the soil, and I don't know if you can see, but look there, there is a big section of growth. And actually, I had another little dig in the soil this morning, and let me uncover it again. Yeah, there's other bits of growth that are starting to pop up. I might need to put some clips in so that you can see better. But there are lots of bits of growth that are starting to come from the rhizome, which I'm so excited about because genuinely, I really thought this was a goner. And this has got to be the most resilient Alicasia I have ever grown. It is one of my first, not even one of my first Alocasias, it was one of my first plants. I'll put a picture on the screen when it was like big and mature so you can see what it looks like. But yeah, it's one that I've chopped back to nothing many times. I have struggled a little bit with, but again, it feels like it's giving me another chance. And now that I am in a brand new environment, I've got more space to be able to isolate this plant. I feel like this could be the start of, I was going to say, a beautiful friendship blossoming. I really do. I feel like me and this plant are going to get on much better in this environment. So yeah, I've got 4 growth points on it currently. There's one in fact coming out of the actual, I don't know if you want to call this like the corm or the base of the plant, but yeah, there's a point coming out of it there. Oh, and another one. Yeah, there's loads. There's absolutely loads. So actually, for having a big chop back, I kind of feel like maybe this is going to create a really beautiful bushy plant. And this plant's never grown in that way. It's always just grown from like one growth point. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it gets on. And I'm currently growing it in terracotta. This is not how I would always recommend growing Alicasia, but it was the biggest pot I had at the time for the stump that I had. And so I was like, I'm going to pot it up this way. And the thing that I very much thinking about at the moment is that the beginning of next week, so for me in a few days time, I'm actually going to be driving up to Malvern for the RHS Spring Show. I know some of you are coming and I'm so excited about it. But that is going to mean me leaving my plants for just over 2 weeks because I'm going up a little bit early because I'm doing a show garden there, so I'm going to be doing the whole build and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's like, although 2 weeks in itself might not seem like a massively long time, and it's not, for some plants such as this one that are not very well established and maybe just need a little bit of extra observation, I would say, it's not the ideal time to be going away. And I'm obviously not going to take them with me, so I'm gonna Ross is actually coming up a week later, so I'm gonna write Ross some notes and maybe record him a little video and kind of show him some of the things to look for, because yeah, there's a few plants that I'll take you through on this list that I'm feeling a little bit nervous about. And in fact, one of them is one that I have spoken so much about recently, the Aristoia Lucan. And again, this is one I haven't had very long. I think I've had it for maybe a month now. And there is the start, this is so small you might not be able to see it, but there is the start just there of a little bit of new growth. I think it's probably too small at the moment, but I'm so excited. I'm so excited because I know how slow this plant can be to grow. I also know that this one is a little bit of a nightmare to grow, so I'm excited to have a play and see what I can do and see if I can figure it out. But again, this is one that likes to remain consistently moist, and I'm not going to be here to do it. So for this one and a few of my other kind of small sensitive plants, particularly the ones that like to stay hydrated, instead of risking it and asking Ross to kind of like do loads of soil monitoring and stuff, I think I'm probably going to create a big kind of propagation box using like a transparent storage bin. And I'm going to put it right up against the window, put a little layer of water at the bottom, and I see no reason at all why that won't help to keep all of the plants in there really, really happy in the time that I'm away. I don't want to jinx it by saying that actually so confidently, but I don't see why that won't work. So that's my plan at the moment. But yeah, this one, when it starts to put out growth, the common thing that I have heard from pretty much everyone I've spoken to who's grown this plant, which is not many people, is that when it starts to put out new growth, if it doesn't have something to climb, like immediately, the growth will kind of just die back because it doesn't have anything to grip onto and pull itself up with. And I've got lots of different trellises at the moment, so I'm thinking that I'll probably, when I put it into the prop box, not that I think it's going to suddenly burst into life in the next couple of weeks. I mean, you never know, it might. But I think what I'll probably do is leave a little trellis next to the point of new growth. So if it does want to kind of like tendril a little bit, it can do that. Oh, and then yeah, I'm just very excited to see it when I get home. If I remember correctly, actually last year when I went to Malvern, there were lots of, I guess it's just the time of year, isn't it? But like there were lots of exciting things starting to happen then. My Gymnocalycium cactus, that was getting ready to flower. It hasn't done it again for me this year, at this point anyway. But yeah, I remember that was happening and I was like, oh, I don't want to miss it. Do I take it with me? I didn't. But yeah, there's just so much happening, and like, I just think sometimes going away and then coming back to your plants at a point where there is so much growth going on. I mean, I'm noticing so much every single day when I come into this space, and this isn't even the rest of the house, but I feel like coming back in here after a couple of weeks away, it's just gonna blow my mind. So yeah, I'm super excited. But yeah, as I say, this is one that I am just so excited to grow. It's still one that isn't particularly accessible. I've seen a few places. In fact, I saw some people on eBay selling this plant. It's not the cheapest to buy at the moment, but I do think the price will probably drop. My theory on why it's not that cheap to buy is simply because apparently, so I got this, Grow Tropicals managed to source this for me, and they said that they started propagating it, I want to say back in August, and they were like, this is it, like that's what we've got from propagating all that time ago, so it's very, very slow. So yeah, bear with, fingers crossed, and hopefully when I get back in a couple of weeks, there might be more to show you. I really, hope that there is. And also, as I always say, if any of you grow this plant, if you've got any experience with what to do, what not to do, please let me know. It's so useful, and honestly, pretty much everything I've learnt about a lot of my plants is because of your experiences and what you've learnt. So yeah, share the knowledge if you know anything. But yeah, I'm so excited about it. Oh, and another one. Oh my God, this one has changed a huge amount. It's given me the most massive leaf. This one I don't have an accurate ID on. I know it's an Antherum Luxurian's hybrid of some sort, and this is its most recent leaf. How gorgeous is that? Its leaves before were nice, but I don't know, they were almost more radicansy. Like, there's something about them that just kind of, I don't know, it always reminds me a bit of like cabbage leaves. Whereas this one, for the first time, it has really got so much of the Luxurians in it. And if any of you have any theories on what you think this might be a hybrid plant of, then please let me know. I still am not particularly good with like guessing hybridization with anthuriums. Like, if it's very obvious, like if it's clarinervium or crystalline or something like that, then I'm okay, but I wouldn't even know where to start. So yeah, any theories, let me know. But the other exciting thing, I find this exciting, it might not actually be exciting at all, but a while ago I was saying, do any of you guys know where to get like pretty cover pots for tower pots? Just because tower pots, oh, I did have one next to me. I must have tidied it away. They're the big ones that you typically grow, like tall aroid pots. In fact, let me get one and show you. Yeah, like these pots, that's the thing I mean. I was basically just saying, do you know where to get pretty cover pots? Because obviously, like typical pretty pots for plants will just come to about there, and then you're left with this horrible bit just sticking up at the top. And at the time, some of you said, have you tried looking at like wine coolers and stuff like that? And I was like, what a great idea. And I haven't been able to find any, and I still sadly haven't been able to find any that are quite big enough. However, in my local charity shop a couple of weeks ago, I stumbled across these terracotta wine coolers, and I just love them. I am such a massive fan of like, oh, my voice suddenly feels like it's going. That's bizarre. Yeah, I'm such a massive fan of vintage terracotta and just things that are a little bit unusual, and I saw this, and in fact I found a couple of them. I've got another one that fits this plant perfectly in it down here. How perfect is that? And then I've just got the container inside. But yeah, although with the Luxurians hybrid, although annoyingly it doesn't quite cover the pot, I just love the look of it. I think it's just something a little bit different, and I'm now on the hunt to find bigger versions of this for bigger tower pots. So again, if any of you have any sources, I feel like probably Etsy and places like that are probably the place to look. But yeah, I just stumbled across these ones, and I just think they've got so much character. And I just find that really fun. I think especially now I've got a little bit more space to be able to actually like not just have everything like crammed together in the same way as I did at the flat. I'm appreciating the pots of my plants a little bit more, because before, if I didn't stick to like a very neutral colour, it could sometimes feel very crowded and like cramped, and I just didn't like it. Whereas now, like, I don't know, I love things like this. So yes, very exciting. But yeah, my God, if this has sized up this quickly, I've only had this plant for maybe 6 months or something, maybe not even that long, 5-6 months, something like that. Yeah, I feel like coming into growing season, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And from that, size-wise, part of me is like, maybe it's like a Magnificum hybrid. That would make sense, because I've got the Luxurians just on the shelf over there, and its leaves are only that big, like a lot smaller than this. So my guess is that this is hybridized with something that is naturally a little bit bigger in structure. But yes, as I say, please let me know your theories. And I actually can't remember the Latin name for this plant, but this is one that I've had a few questions from you guys from recently saying, do I still have it? How's it growing? And it's commonly known, I think, as the African rose. I'll put its name on the screen. But this is the way that this plant grows. And I know it is capable of really branching and in fact producing the most beautiful flowers. Again, if I can find some other pictures of this plant, I'll put them on the screen so that you can see. But this is one that at the moment I'm finding very easy to grow. And to be honest, the reason that I wasn't finding it that easy to grow for a while, I think, is just because I neglected it a little bit. Don't get me wrong, it is a succulent and does like to dry out quite a bit between waterings. However, again, when I was back at the flat and I was just overlooking certain things because I didn't really have the space to like see everything all the time, this one went too dry for too long. And at one point it lost all of its lovely leaves. So I did end up chopping it back. And yeah, now it's just growing back beautifully. All of the foliage it's giving me is so luscious and shiny. It's almost like, if you just like feel it, it feels like a ficus. That's the only way I can describe it. I would think probably if I didn't know and I just saw the leaves of this plant that it was some sort of ficus. But yeah, it's really gorgeous. It is still a very low maintenance one. I only water it currently maybe like once every week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. And I do still wait for it to dry out, but I am better at monitoring it. Like, oh, I cannot even explain how happy it makes me being able to see all my plants now. And for that reason, I haven't actually gone that crazy with like buying new things since I've moved in, because I had, again, lots of people saying like, oh, I bet when you've got a bigger space, you're just going to absolutely fill it. And obviously this is my primary planty space. And like, this is where I keep most of my like quite finicky plants and ones that require more care. But I've just enjoyed like creating little pockets of green around the rest of the house. And yeah, like not making it too much for my brain to comprehend. Like it all has felt much more manageable. And yeah, there's actually, and oh God, this is probably famous last words. In fact, it definitely is, seeing as I'm just about to go away for a couple of weeks. But there's not that much going wrong with my plants at the moment. So I was looking at things the other day and I was like, things are pretty good. There's obviously one or two things that aren't as healthy as they could be. But on the whole, I want to say this is like the best my plant collection's been in a while. And that's a really nice feeling. So the weather obviously helps as well. I was going to say, like, as soon as the seasons change, so long as you keep on top of watering, this time of year is typically quite kind. But yeah, this is one that like I'm just really looking forward to seeing what it does next. I can see on the back of the leaves, some of them are starting to go a little bit pink. Like it's very, very subtle. Hold it like that, maybe you'll be able to see. And I'm like, is that sun stress? I don't know. But yeah, it's a very cool, very unusual one, and I'll keep you updated with that. My aim is to get it to flower. Whether or not it's mature enough to do that yet, I don't know. But we'll see. Oh, okay, and then I brought 3 of this plant over. And I won't spend too much time talking about this one just because I know I have banged on about it a fair amount in the past, but it is the Drimonia Cherry Beana, and I'll show you this little one first. I don't know why the camera is just focusing on my face today. But yeah, I'll show you this little one first, and this one is growing in sphagnum moss, and it's propped really, really well, and I'm loving the way it's growing. However, the base of this, like the main stem, is very, very thin, and I'm a little bit worried that it's going to snap at some point. So I may chop and propagate this section. It doesn't feel as scary, the thought of doing that, now that I've got a couple of other sections that are growing well. And since I chopped it back, just look at this section of it. This is like how I remember the plant a year ago, because I got this plant at the beginning of 2024. It was actually sent to me by one of you guys, and oh my goodness, I'm so grateful. It is still to this day one of my favourite plants, and one that I didn't know about before as well, which is so cool. But yeah, I hit such a high with this plant in the first few months of owning it, and everything was going brilliantly. It was growing like a weed, and then I decided to chop and propagate it, and everything started going wrong. Like, I lost several sections of it. The sections that eventually did root got pests, and then I couldn't get them back from that. And it has taken me, honestly, like a full year to get this plant back to what I'm showing you now. So the fact that this bit is now growing so well, I know it's a little bit wonky and weird, but I'm just gonna let it keep going, I think, because I'm so happy it's just back doing its thing and back to being an easy care plant, because it was an easy care plant initially, and then I think I just somehow overcomplicated things by trying to propagate too soon. I don't know. But then I've decided to grow one section of it, and again, this was another kind of experimentation section, a cutting that I took when the plant wasn't doing well, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try it in semi-hydro because I've never done that before. And this is it in semi-hydro. And as you can see, the form is much more condensed, and the growth it's giving me is really quite red. Do you know what I mean? It's really, really bizarre. And the lighting that this plant is getting is not that much different to what it's getting. I've got one on my cabinet and one on my shelves, so it's not significantly different. And this section also has been much slower to grow, but when I feel it, it feels like it feels like a different plant. It's so hard to explain. This feels much more succulent. It feels like the leaves almost have no bend in them. Like if I was to just like bend this a little bit, it would snap, whereas the other ones don't feel quite as succulent. So I'm just really enjoying how all of them are growing so differently. Like if I hold them next to each other, focus, there we go. Do you see what I mean? It's like, it's almost like they're two different species of the same genus. And I don't know if that will change as they grow and mature, but I'm intrigued to see. I did think about combining them again at some point, but I'm also kind of like, why don't I just keep them growing as different plants and see how the substrate affects things? So yes, that's where I'm up to with the Drymonia cherry Beana at the moment. And just before I move on to the next plant, I'm just very quickly going to change my camera battery because that is about to die. Fabulous. Where should we go now? Oh, okay, let's go to this one. So this plant is currently really quite dehydrated, so probably not looking as gorgeous as it could be. However, this is one that I haven't shown on my channel in years, and I do mean years, because this is the Pepperomia Frost. And if you have been here watching my videos for, I want to say like 3 years, then you'll probably remember this is one of the first plants I got absolutely obsessed with to the point that I was like talking about it in every single video, and I was like, everyone should have this plant. It was in fact the first Pepperomia that I propagated as well from a one-leaf cutting. And I gave some cuttings to my friend Emma, good growing, and the plant rooted really well for her, it grew really well for her. And she was having a clear out of her collection recently, and she just said to me, she was like, I've decided that this isn't the plant for me anymore. I'm getting rid of my Pepperomia Frost. Do you want it back? Because my mother plants very sadly didn't make it. I think I overwatered it. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, I just jumped at the opportunity to grow this plant again, because although this isn't my exact plant, this is technically a child of my plant, and it just feels really lovely that literally years later, as I say, I'm kind of being given a second chance. And at the moment it is just growing in the little plastic pot. Oh, just lost a leaf. The little plastic pot that Emma was growing it in, and I've just put it in this terracotta pot just for a bit of stabilisation because it's quite front heavy. And as I say, it is very much due for a drink, but I'm trying to be a little bit strategic about when I do all my watering, just because I want to do one big mass water before I go to Malvern, so that hopefully Ross will only need to do a very little bit. So yeah, that has just meant over the last few days, like looking at things being like, I know you need a drink, but I'm not going to give it to you yet because I want to try and time it so it's all the same. Oh, same-ish, you know. So tomorrow, I think, is the day that I'm going to have to water this plant, or I'm going to start losing more leaves because, as I say, a very floppy leaf just fell off. But yeah, I just think it's such a gorgeous Pepperomia. I mean, the frost, it's in the name, like it's very clear. It's so silvery and blue. And in fact, when it's even more hydrated, oh, also Something just fell from one of my plants. What was that? I don't know what that was. But yeah, when it's weird. When it's very hydrated, it almost looks more like shiny than it does at the moment. It's just such a lovely, lovely one. And I don't really know what my long-term plans for this plant are. It's not the kind of peperomia that has, in my experience, in the way that I've grown it before anyway, and not a lot of like diversity about it. Like there's some types of plant that you can train to like grow in really cool ways, or like they change form as they get older. Like the one thing that I'm intrigued about with peperomia, I wouldn't say like, I don't know, I don't think I'm going to start right now, but it's pollination, because they do throw out these kind of inflorescence type things very often. I've never I've never experimented with pollinating a peperomia. I wouldn't even know how to go about it, to be honest, but it's something that I'm like, oh, could I do some kind of hybridization? I've got a couple of different types of peperomia that do give me inflows on a regular basis, so that could be quite fun to play about with. But yeah, as I say, for the time being, I just feel so lucky to have this plant back. It feels like a really lovely full circle moment, because I moved out, God, my voice. I moved out of my mum's house, having been back there for a little while, again, if you remember that. I moved out of my mum's, I moved into my own flat, and at that point, around about then, I think I lost my peperomia hope. I was obviously there for a couple of years, and now being here in this new environment, having just bought a house, I'm like, oh, I've got my baby back, and it's a great feeling. So yeah, thank you, Emma, if you're watching. I love it so much. Oh, and this is exciting. So I said in a video probably about 4 weeks ago that I had the Dracaena Milky Way, is that what it's called? This plant here, but it wasn't doing anything for me. It's just suddenly started throwing out the most insane growth. Look at that. So obviously, because I haven't had this plant, well, in the time that I've had this plant, it hasn't given me any new growth. I've never got to see the growth come in before, and I absolutely love how pale and green it comes in, and then how it fades to this gorgeous, yeah, like dappled Milky Wayness. It's just such a lovely one. And I can also see the start of some growth just starting to come up here on the taller vine. So yeah, I'd be interested to know, any of you that have got this plant, how you're growing it, because like it doesn't look like, I mean, Dracaena typically doesn't need to climb, but it has got very thin stems at the bottom here. So I'm like, it does require some sort of support, I would have thought. So I'm like, do I trellis it? Do I stake it up? Do I get it climbing the walls? That was another thought I had at one point. But yeah, I'm just super excited. The other thing as well is that the leaves that it's just given me, they don't seem to have that much white variegation in the middle, and I don't know if maybe that's just how they're going to look. Like, is the variegation going to fade? Can it fade? Is like, I really don't know much about this plant. So yeah, this feels like a win. It feels like a sign that the plant is happy in this environment, which is so important and something that I'm really pleased about, because I always worry when I do a big shift up of environment, and this is a very good sign. So yeah, I'm just not quite sure what my plans are yet. I could divide the plant, I could divide it. I don't know, but just bearing in mind I said so recently, like, oh, this is one that's just not doing anything. I just wanted to show you how quickly things can change, because this is some pretty dramatic growth. In fact, these are the biggest leaves it's got so far, and I think they're still hardening off as well. Yeah, just how much can change in a very short space of time. So if you're not quite sure, maybe stick with the plant. Maybe don't stick with the plant as well. It's totally okay to not want to grow something anymore. But I'm glad I didn't give up. Oh, and then this is still one that I'm not feeling completely confident with, but my Variegated Alicasia Sarion. I know the last time I showed you this one, I was like, all of its leaves are dying back, what do I do? And it has given me its first new leaf in my care, which is this one here. It's arguably smaller than the other leaf, and I'm going to put that down to acclimation. I really hope it's not just unhappy in this environment. And I can actually see since that one's come in that this one looks like it's kind of getting ready to yellow and die back. So I feel like this one might be one that cycles for a little while. Sometimes that does happen with alocasias again when they change environments. I've only had this one for a couple of months. So maybe that is why, but it's just one that I'm so desperate to grow well. And I would just love to get it growing lovely and big. I'm not that familiar with the variegated Sarion. In fact, I'm not that familiar with either. I've never grown the non-variegated or the variegated. But I hear the variegated is really quite difficult. And in fact, the person that I got this off, I think I said at the time, they were like, don't go for one, as tempting as it is, don't go for one that's really, really variegated because you are going to struggle so much. So although I liked the look of another plant more, I went for one that had a higher balance of green, and I'm really glad that I did. But yeah, it's just a plant that is keeping me on my toes, and I think is another one, in fact, that I'm probably going to put into a little prop box when I go away, because although I'm growing this one in semi-hydro and technically you can just like monitor the reservoir and I could ask Ross to fill it, I'd really like to make sure that humidity stays up, and I think having it in a prop box is going to make me feel a little bit better and worry less when I'm away, I think. So yeah, that's the plan at the moment. I can kind of see, I mean, it's very early days, but I can kind of see if I look at the back of the stem, it looks a little bit green. Am I imagining that just there? So I feel like maybe it's already getting ready to give me a new leaf. Or am I imagining that? That could be wishful thinking. But no, the thing I also love about this plant is it's got those gorgeous, like zebrina-y stems. And I believe it is a Zebrina Mitchellitziana hybrid, so that makes sense. I also have said it before, but typically hybrid plants tend to be a little bit more resilient and tolerant and easier than ones that aren't hybrids, just because they've got two separate gene pools. They tend to make stronger plants. I don't know if that'll be the case with this one yet or not, but yeah, we'll see. But I'm very excited about what it's doing so far. Oh, and then I've got a couple. In fact, I don't really know why I brought this one over. This one is just making me happy because it's growing so quickly. Very quick one. But this is my Philodendron tortum. And if you remember this one from my flat, it was growing in literally the lowest level of light in my kitchen, just by my sink. And all of this, literally from like here, all of this is new growth since I've moved into this place, and it's just loving life. I think obviously I've massively upped its light, and I haven't been doing anything else apart from giving it more light and a little bit more water because of that. But yeah, it's just such a cool, funky plant, and I love the texture of it, and I'm just happy about it. So yeah, I just brought that over to show you. But then the final one, and this is one that I do need to think about transitioning out of the cabinet. And I'm like, oh, is that too risky to do before I leave for Malvern? I don't know. But it is my Musa Florida Variegata. And I got this one from Downtown Plant Club towards the end of last year, I think. And when it arrived, I've said it before, but it just wasn't in the best state. It was a little bit battered. It did not acclimate well. I think at one point it had like half a leaf and I had to chop the whole thing back. I had to rehab the roots. I'm now growing it in semi-hydro and it's loving life. It's throwing out so much new growth. It's got a beautiful balance of variegation. And yeah, I can see that literally as soon as one leaf fully unfurls, and in fact this one hasn't even fully unfurled yet, then I immediately get a new one coming up. So I think this plant is going to get big. And some of you have said that you could grow this outside, and I am thinking about maybe putting a few of my houseplants outside this summer. Just because I have got a little patio area just outside the doors here, and obviously I haven't really had outside space to play with before. I'd love to be able to kind of bring out the best in them and get them to size up even more. I will then need to think about where I put them when they come back inside, if they've got absolutely huge over summer. So these are all things to think about. But yeah, this is one that I do hear does really well outside. So maybe I'll do it. I don't know. I love as well how chunky that main stem is getting. It's kind of looking like a tree trunk now. And that's one of the things I really love about Musa. It does, I mean, it's commonly known as banana plant. It does develop that beautiful, again, if I can find a mature picture of the stem, it is almost tree-like, but it's also very succulent. I don't know, there's just something very appealing about that. So yeah, it's a plant I'm just so excited to grow, but it is pushing like everything else out of my cabinet right now. So yeah, I don't know if I take it out yet, but it's soon. It will be soon. But yes, those are all of the things I brought over to show you today. There is lots more that is also going on and making me excited, but as I say, I'm doing a full, it's kind of, well, I was going to say plant tour then. It's not a plant tour. I'm not doing a house plant tour just yet. I will do that at some point. But I thought it would just be fun to do an updates video. It's kind of like a walkthrough and show you just kind of like an overview of like loads of things that are going on, but also just show you the whole house, because I know I've lived here a couple of months now and I haven't really given you a house tour yet. Garden tour is coming. We've done so much filming for it and we've done so many things in the garden, but I just haven't got around to like piecing things together yet. So bear with me, that will likely be an after Malvern video. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this video. As I say, if you've got exciting things going on with your plants or anything weird or anything worth mentioning, please let me know. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, have a lovely day, oh my god these rings, and I will see you in the next video.
Stay sexy, plant lovers.